Now that I've decided what engine I'm going to use in the frame and the gas tank and all the parts that I'm going to use, I'm going to go ahead and start mounting the engine in the frame. I'm going to leave the original mounting plate for the engine because I have kind of a tread lightly kind of a mentality when it comes to original parts like that. You know, I'm going to leave that, and then if someone got the frame later on wanted to put the original engine back in there, they can unbolt this adapter plate that I'm going to make and bolt an original engine in there. So I've dug this piece of 1/4-inch plate out of the scrap pile right there. I've marked out the length. Right here is going to be 7 1/4 inches long for the footprint of the Briggs. And it's going to be like 4 1/4 inches wide, I think. So I'm going to get started cutting that out. And then I'll drill some holes to match the footprint of the Briggs. And then we'll see about how to attach it to the original plate there. So there's my mounting plate after I got it all cut out and the holes drilled. I'm going to go ahead and mount this to the motor, and we'll take a peek at it and see what it looks like in the chassis. Let's carry this over there. That's about where it's going to sit. The problem I see, that spark plug wire is terribly close to that bar right there that mounts the gas tank. Even though I'm not using an original gas tank, I was planning on leaving that bar in there. So even though I don't like modifying the frame no more than I have to, I think what I'm going to do is drill these rivets or grind these rivet heads off right here. So those are probably 3/16 or 1/4 of an inch thick. That'll let the engine drop down just a little bit more. I was going to use some spacers right here to space the plate up above those rivets, but I think I'll just grind the heads of them off. And you know, if wanted to go back with an original motor later, you could always put bolts in there. The motor's going to sit on top of it and you wouldn't see those anyway. So I think I'm going to grind those off. That'll allow the motor to sit down just a little bit more and give me a little bit more clearance up here. So right here's a little bit of an up close look at those rivets. So I'm just going to take a grinder and grind the heads of those off right there. That should fix me right up. So there's what that looks like after I ground the heads of all the rivets off and then just cleaned the paint off of it with a flapper disc. Got a good flat surface right here now on which to put my motor plate. All right, now I've got the motor plate clamped in there where I want it. I'm going to flip the frame over and get the holes marked in the plate, get those drilled, and then I should be able to bolt the motor in there. So there's what the plate looks like on the bike. These are the factory holes that I'm using. Actually, when I put the plate up there the first time, clamped it on to mark the holes, I don't know if my clamp slipped or what, but miscued on these holes. The motor was just a little bit crooked in the frame, so all I did is flipped it over right there and re-drilled the holes, and that works great. However, now the problem that I'm running into is the bolt heads. I thought all of them would fit up in the recess of this motor. You can see that's recessed up in there, but one of them's hitting that little rib right there. So what I'm going to do is I picked up these socket head tapered bolts. Those are 3/8 inch, and I'm going to recess those down in there. I'll just drill a taper into that plate, and those will go right down in that taper, and then it should be flush. So then the motor can sit right on top of it, and then I can bolt it to the frame. So there's what the engine plate looks like, all bolted in. I decided just to use the regular bolts in there and just recess this one that was giving me clearance issues because I figured it's best to leave as much meat on that plate there as I could to hold it down. Not that this is going to be a torque monster or anything, but you never know. So I just decided to leave the regular bolts in there. Plus, that's just that much extra work that I don't have to do. So all that's going to be hidden by the motor anyway. So I'm going to slap it in there and see what it looks like. So now that I got the motor mount all figured out, I'm going to move up here to the gas tank. I don't have an original gas tank, so I'll be using this Tecumseh tank right here, just like that. But before I mount that, I'm going to take this bar out, I think, because I don't know how well you can see it here on camera. That thing is really warped up, and you can't really get a hammer in here to swing and straighten that up good because of the frame and the seat spring there and all that stuff. So I think what I'm going to do is cut it loose on both ends, take that bar out, straighten it up, arrow straight, and then I'll weld it back in. I think would be the easiest thing to do. And I want this bar back in there because if I ever do find an original tank, I can put an original tank in the frame. They are really cool looking, kind of teardrop shaped, very stylized. They look like a little baby Harley is what they look like. So if I ever find one, I can put that in there. They're very expensive though. So, and this is not going to be exactly an authentic original bike. So for now, I'm going to put the Tecumseh tank in there and we'll see what happens. So I'm just eyeballing this tank right here and kind of brainstorming a little bit about how I'm going to mount that in the frame. At first I thought that I would take the original mounting bracket off the Tecumseh motor and maybe chop that off and kind of try to fit it in there, but this thing's kind of bulky and awkward, so I think I'm going to toss that idea. So instead of that, I think what I'm going to do is use the original straps for the tank and put that on there like that, buckle them on the bottom, and maybe I'll put some tabs right here off of the frame, just on the corners of the tank, and let it go in under that strap and clamp down on that bracket. So that might work. It would require welding some little tabs on the tank or on the frame there. That really don't concern me a whole lot because, you know, if I did want to actually restore this bike, I could have those brackets off there. I could have those buzzed off in just a quick order and have that cleaned up and ready to paint. So yeah, I think that might be the way to go. So let's look for something to try to make some brackets out of. That won't work because that's aluminum, can't weld that. So let's see. It looks like that might be a little too small. I think this might be just what we need. Well, after looking at this up close, this is pretty thin wall. It would probably work, but there's a chance of it bending. Not that it'd take a whole lot to hold that little gas tank up. But, you know, my philosophy is when in doubt, make it stout. So this piece right here is probably 16 gauge thickness right there. And it'd be a little stronger, I think. So I can slice this about, maybe about a 1/2 inch off that and have 1, 2, 3, 4 little corner brackets right there. Should work out perfect. Well, the first problem I've ran into with the tank about getting it mounted is this strap is loose on there. If you can see how much gap is between there, it's drawn all the way up. It's still loose on the tank, and that is because it was designed to sit in this cradle, in this bracket, so you got the extra thickness of this material here on the bracket. And because I'm not going to use that bracket, those straps are going to be loose on the tank. So I want those to be good and tight. So what I'm going to do is I've got this piece of inner tube, and I'm going to line this strap here with that inner tube. I'll glue it to the strap, and that should make it good and tight. And actually that'd help with vibration and stuff in the tank too. So I'm going to try to get that glued up to the straps, and we'll go from there. The first thing I'm going to do is clean this band up real good with this wire brush on the drill. That did a real good job getting that cleaned up. So now that I've got that done, I'm going to apply this contact cement to both sides of this, the steel and the rubber. And then I'm going to let that sit for about 15 minutes as per the instructions. And then that stuff gets really sticky, so I'm going to stick that together and clamp it probably back to the tank just to hold it in place and let it dry good. So after I got the rubber glued to the band there, I went ahead and clamped it onto the gas tank, left it overnight. You can actually start working with it in about 15 minutes. You can contact the parts together and work with it right away. This is the glue that I'm using. It's just contact cement. Works really well. Picked that up at Lowe's. But I was at a good stopping point anyway, so I just clamped that onto the tank, and that kept pressure on it, so kept it glued in place right there. Now I'm just going to take the knife and use that strap as a guide and trim the excess rubber off right there. Okay, now that I've got that rubber glued on, I've put one of the straps on the tank, and I'm just going to kind of hold this up there, and I'm going to mark the corners of where I want the clamps or the brackets to go. So right here's one of the brackets, and it will just slide up under that band right there. It will weld to the frame right there. So I've got this band marked because both of them are just exactly alike. I'll take this one back off and I'll make the marks on the other side. Okay, so that's what that looks like. Got all the brackets on there, got everything cleaned up right here. Let me turn this welder off. I was just getting ready to buzz those on there. So I got all that cleaned up. Took a lot of trial and error and fitting to get them all on there and the same from side to side. Got a little creative about holding the tank in there. Got a 2x4 and a screwdriver wedged in there to hold it up till I can get those welded on. So that's what I'm going to do right now. So I'm going to put the camera down because it's a little difficult to weld and film at the same time. So I'm going to get those buzzed on and we'll check back with you in a few minutes. Man, I am so excited about the way this gas tank turned out. That just looks great. I was so excited about it. I even mocked up the front forks and a big old fog light there on the front. I am so digging this bike. Anyway, got the gas tank all mounted up and I love the way this thing's taking shape. Till next time.
Y'all get out there and build something.
That's right.
Y'all get out there and build something.